All right, so this is a bit of a different video. I wanted to film this just to have a bit of a raw chat with you and to, talk about some of the things that people don't really tell you about becoming successful. Because I think the risk on sort of this thing that I do and this whole YouTube about business is many people can lead you down a path that doesn't actually benefit you. So in this video, I want to have a chat about like what it actually takes to become successful in your 20s, the things that other people don't tell you, maybe a little bit about why they don't tell you this, and just give you like the data and the understanding of what it actually takes to become successful, how you can do that. And then if you want to do it, cool. I've got lots of content on that. If not, maybe this video like saves you a bunch of time and headache in your life. And if you don't know me, by the way, like this is my experience in spending most of my 20s, basically all of my 20s, building a company from zero to $110 million and ultimately selling it when I turned 31. So I know what I'm talking about, and I've lived this life of becoming what the world considers successful in your 20s. But I want to also talk about like the flip side of entrepreneurship, because what I see a lot on this platform is people want to sort of sell you the easy path. Like I see too many quotes where it's like getting rich is easy. Like if you're not making $10 million a year, it's just because you don't know how to make $10 million a year. And I think that's actually a bit misleading. Like sure, you don't know how to make $10 million a year, but it's not like there's some switch that you can just flip and now you know how to make $10 million a year. There was no course, there's no seminar, there's no guru, there's nothing that can actually change you to be able to make that $10 million a year. What has to actually happen is a process of, the best way I can describe it is it's like a process of tempering. The same way that if you want to take like a raw ore in a mine and turn that into like a beautiful, let's say katana, because I was like, when I was a kid, I was super into katana. So I know a lot about like forging a katana. So let's say you want to actually like forge that raw ore into a katana. You can't just do it in like 5 minutes, or there's no seminar, there's no course that will turn that into this beautiful katana. There is a real process of beating out the ore, heating it up, beating it out, heating it up, beating it out, folding it, heating it up, smashing it. And over time, it gets molded into the thing that you want. And I think this is a beautiful metaphor for achieving anything you want in life, because you can't skip the tempering process. You can speed it up a little bit, but you still have to go through that process. And unlike the ore, which you can just smash and you hear like the smash of metal and things like that, in this case, the thing being tempered is you. You're the one that's being like burnt alive, smashed by hammers. And I'm using very violent metaphors here because that is what it feels like. It's not a fun process going from where I was, broke to, selling the company for 110 million. Like this is a really hard thing. But the thing that I have learned, because I have experience in my 20s, is if you want to do this, you should know what you're signing up for. And what you're trying to do is to take this tempering process and shorten it as much as possible. What that means for you practically, if you want to actually become successful in your 20s, is sacrifice. Like if I was to come up with one word on how I described my 20s, it's not working hard. It's not, like discipline. It's sacrifice. Because there were so many things I wanted to do in my 20s. Maybe I wanted to date more. Maybe I wanted to travel more. Maybe I wanted to like relax or sleep in or just like have some fun. I went to school to make video games because at the time when I was younger, I loved video games. But in my 20s, I basically didn't play any video games, even though it's like something that I'd love to do so much. I was just heads down working. And when I wasn't working, I was thinking about work. And maybe this is the harder part about it, because it's one thing to work a job with really long hours. And a lot of people have done this where, your job sucks. You're working 10 hours, 11 hours, 12 hours a day. But when it's a job, when you leave the job, you leave work and you leave your thoughts and your concerns and your worries about work behind. You don't bring them home with you. They don't keep you up till 4 or 5 a.m. at night. Contrast that with actually building a business, and these thoughts about your business, they never leave you. You can be on the most beautiful beach with the most beautiful women. You can do whatever you want, and your thoughts are still on your business. They're on the things that are going wrong, generally, not what's going right. Because what's going right in your business will never keep you up at night. It will never be the thing that you think about. So your mind becomes, the word that came to mind for me was poisoned, maybe poisoned or plagued with thoughts about what's going wrong in your business. And they follow you wherever you go. And that's not to say that this is necessarily a bad thing. If you look at like the greats in life outside of business, maybe like a Kobe Bryant with his Mamba mentality, it's all about that obsession. Or like a Conor McGregor in combat sports, again, obsession, absolute obsession. I think obsession is what is one of the key ingredients that's required to become successful. But obsession and sacrifice mean that you don't get to live a normal life. And I'm not sure that's for everybody. Like that's maybe my one key message from this video is you should really decide if that life is for you. Because for a lot of people, you can get, like, especially now with online courses for learning how to program and things like that. Like if you just want to make 6 figures, you can get a college degree in finance, you can get a college degree in programming, you can teach yourself programming, you can get into like a tax job or a finance job and make 6 figures pretty comfortably. Like especially if you're doing this in a company with a good culture, you're gonna have great work-life balance. You're not gonna have a lot of problems. You're not gonna need to make hard decisions. Like the hard decisions are going to be made by the leaders of these companies, and you get to sort of say, okay, you've given me a direction, you've made the call, we're gonna go in that direction, we're gonna execute. And being someone that doesn't have to make decisions and live with the ultimate consequences, I'm talking like, tens, dozens, hundreds of jobs at stake by your decisions, is a good life. It's a life where you can go on vacation regularly. You can actually afford the American dream. Like if you're making $150,000 a year in one of these tech jobs, you can buy a nice house, you can have a nice place, hang out with your friends, you can relax. And I'm not old, but I'm 34 now. And I recognize that those moments are actually quite few. Like I'm not in my 20s anymore, and I don't have the desire to go backpacking through Europe. Like I've missed the window for that maybe. And now listen, like I traveled to 10 countries last year. I'm just about to go to Japan for a month. Then I'll be in London for a couple months. So like I'm traveling, I'm having a good time, but it's not the same as living life in your 20s. I'm now living life as a successful man in his mid 30s. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. I knew what I was getting into when I signed up. At least I knew I was signing up for sacrifice. Actually, I want to change that because I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know how hard it would be. And in fact, if you talk with other entrepreneurs, like even NVIDIA, the CEO of NVIDIA in a recent interview, they're worth $2 billion or $2 trillion, $2 trillion. And the interviewer said, if you could go back over, what would you do differently? And he said, I wouldn't do it at all. He said, if someone could have actually told me how hard it would be to build this company, I would have never done it. And it's easy to say that when you're successful, and I recognize that for myself, but it's a tremendous amount of sacrifice and hard work, and there's no way to skip that tempering process. And so, my advice to you, if you're watching this video and you're thinking about, you want these things, you want maybe the cars, maybe you want to travel, you want financial independence. If you're willing to put in the sacrifice, you can achieve those things. The thing that I would ask you to reflect on sincerely and truly is, are you willing to sacrifice years of your life that you actually can never get back? I can never get back my 20s. I can never be that laid back, fun, funny, easygoing guy in his 20s. And if I'm being honest, like some of the scars and trauma from that time frame in my 20s will probably follow me for the rest of my life. Like I will have certain personality traits and certain things about my life that I can't take back because I've spent this time going through this tempering process. The same way, I'm just going to beat up this metaphor, the same way you cannot take that katana and put it back in the cave. I can't go back. But you look at the katana and you say, this is beautiful. And you're so proud of the result. And ultimately, like, entrepreneurship for me started out as a way to achieve things and moved eventually. And what I'm most proud of is like the person I became. And I think if you go through this tempering process, you will become a more beautiful person, a more strong person than you could ever imagine. And I think there's no other way to achieve that than going through this tempering process. But again, my number one message is it's just not for everyone. So don't get misled by the gurus. There's no quick, easy path to this. There's no 2-year path to this. There's no, I started my business and 6 days later I was making $500,000 a month. Those people don't exist except for on social media when they're selling you a course. But if I could close this, I would just say it is a truly beautiful journey. And if you decided to come along with it, I hope I can help you and wish you all the best on it.